Good evening. We are live. It is a Thursday evening. It is 9 o'clock on a fine autumnal evening. Joking, it has been absolutely pissing down all day up in my neck of the woods. Joining me today is a massive Steelers fan, a massive Argyle fan, as we were just talking about. And, he's been on the scene a long time for the UK NFL network. He's done lots of podcasts. He's been around the game. And that's Freddie. Freddie, how's it going, mate?
Ethan Harrison, yeah, not too bad. Although it has been similarly wet even down here in good old Devon. So yeah, it's been a pretty grim week really. But as for the Steelers, it's been a really positive start. So I can't believe we're 3-0, but long may it continue.
Yeah, so we'll get a little bit into that as we wait for Nathan. 3-0. Is this the Invincibles? Are you going to be taking over the Dolphins' crown? Is this a legit 3-0? Are you excited about this 3-0, or are you just like, let's just ride the wave?
Well, I know a couple of Dolphins fans, and one in particular likes to bang on about the 1972 Miami Dolphins season. So it would be lovely for somebody to at least equal that record, so they've got nothing to support whilst they're watching Skylar Thompson and a Pro Bowl quarterback in Snoop Huntley try to throw the ball. But no, I think if we're being realistic, there's a very little chance in the Steelers going anything like 20-0 and unbeaten season, primarily because we've got the Chiefs in the conference.
You have got the Chiefs. We know a little bit about the Chiefs. It's the only team Patrick Mahomes has a losing record against the Colts, which is a fun little tidbit for you. So we were talking about the Colts versus the Steelers, and you seem to be our boy team. We don't like playing you. The only thing that has been enjoyable against the Steelers is watching Pat McAfee do the fake. Was it a fake punt? Yeah. And then you've got Troy Polamalu. There's a bit of history there. I wouldn't exactly say it's a rivalry, but there's a nice bit of history there for this game building up. And, with Justin Fields seems to be the new quarterback bounce. Would you say he's wrestled that position away from Russell Wilson? Would you say he's just got the opportunity due to injury?
I mean, on the heads, we were saying beforehand that the Steelers have won 8 of the last 9, and the only one we hadn't won was last year with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, and that was just an absolute shambles to watch from start to finish. But even then, I mean, in the last 11 games, we've won 10 of them all the way since that playoff game where Big Ben made the big tackle. And then obviously you missed the field goal right at the end there to let us progress and eventually go on and win the Super Bowl. But that's ancient history. I was very small back then, so long time ago. As for this current iteration, and I mean, Justin Fields is considering that we had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph at quarterback last year. Just have 2 quarterbacks. I mean, Russell Wilson had a mixed year in Denver, but I still think he did quite well there, really. A lot of his criticism there have been mostly due to the shambles around him. He got injured at the wrong time. Justin Fields got his opportunity, has played well. He's not been blowing everyone away, but I mean, he's only had 2 passing touchdowns and an interception, but he's done what we needed to do. Move the ball, over 70% completion percentage, kept us going, less time on defense. That was another big problem with the Steelers, was that we were relying on our defense to play 40, 45 minutes of a 60-minute ball game, which obviously isn't sustainable. He's sustaining drives, and we're playing, I mean, it's not the most exciting football, but we're playing the sort of complementary game that allows us to beat quite a few teams in this league.
Do you reckon that's a bit of a... So if you was to say Steelers to me, I would say sturdy. I would say, I hate bringing it back over to soccer in our game. Would you say Big Six, top 4, sort of that team? They're always going to be in and around, and they're always sort of looking to make that next step, but they haven't really replaced the Big Ben. So do you think it's beneficial to have a quarterback in there like Fields, who, like you say, he's doing the 5-yard stuff before he does the 30-yard stuff, which, as we can go on to our quarterback in a minute, Anthony Richardson, we've seen he can do the 90-yard stuff with his eyes closed, but he can't do the 5-yard stuff, and different points in different careers. But do you see the benefit to having someone, I don't want to say game manager, because I actually think Justin Fields is way more than that. But do you think that has helped Mike Tomlin at your team, and because it sort of suits his style?
I think so. I think it does help, obviously, having on the defensive side of the ball, having such a good defense that you can rely on the fact that...
All right, stop rubbing it in.
If you go sort of 35, 40 yards and then have to punt it away or have to take a field goal, it's not the end of the world, because more than likely our defense will either get a turnover or force the other team to, at worst, get a field goal themselves. So it's knowing that we don't have to score 35, 40 points a game in order to win. I mean, in our first 3 games, we've conceded 6 points, 6 points, and 10 points. So, or 10 points, 10 points, 6 points, 26 points in 3 games, which a lot of teams in this league have conceded more than that one game. So it's just showing you that Fields doesn't have to do anything crazy. Arthur Smith is a huge upgrade on what we've had at offensive coordinator as well, with the likes of Matt Canada, who I don't even think is a college coordinator. That's the level of difference. And Arthur Smith's another one of these many lists of coordinators who've come from not doing a great job as a head coach, but in Tennessee he was a really good offensive coordinator, and here he's trying to develop a game plan in which we do the simple things first and then keep developing as we go along. And it seems to be working so far.
Yeah, it's you can get that. It's odd. Some people sit in that number 2 position better than the number 1 position, to say. Like, I'll be the first one to admit I'm not the biggest Steelers fan, so I don't go around. I might see him on Red Zone. I might see what stuff you do and other people. But to me, it's the defense. It has been the defense for a couple of years, and I think it might have even been yourself who had tweeted it. But you said, if we could just get the time of possession of defense on the field down, the rest of the league has to be on low and we'll be in trouble. Is that? I mean, one, was that your tweet? I remember too. Is that the feeling amongst Steelers fans, that if we can just keep this offense ticking over, running down the clock a little bit, then, like you say, we don't have to score. We don't have to be not exciting. That sounds very that sounds very simple considering you're 3-0, but you don't have to be a quarterback shootout team to win games.
I'm not convinced that having the offensive just ticking over is going to be enough to take down the Chiefs or Bills by any means. But I mean, in terms of our division, if you've ever watched an AFC North grudge match, and I'm sure you've watched many, they always end up being sort of a 13-10, 16-10 sort of low-scoring game, which one team grinds out the win. And I mean, last year, I know there was a lot of injuries to quarterbacks in the AFC North, but we went 5-1 in our division with 2 pretty poor quarterbacks in our defense that was just throwing themselves into games. I know we've got TJ Watt, but he's not the only guy on that defense that can make an impact. Minka Fitzpatrick's another obvious one. The rookie last year, Joey Porter Jr. at corner. Finally, we have a bit of a corner that can cause some damage, although I think we've got a bit of a weakness there in terms of what we've got behind him. So if that's something that the Colts want to exploit, I think that's somewhere where we could be a little bit weak. But on that defensive front, again, it's another line of which, I mean, it's obviously led by Cam Hayward, but there's some other big guys in there that can cause all kinds of problems. And then on the other side, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith's out this week, so that's another positive for the Colts. But we have got Herbig, the other side, who's already had 2 sacks this season as the 3rd choice outside linebacker. So even when players come out, we've got other guys to go in there. And and as I've said, I think it was my tweet that lowering the minutes that they're out on the field, keeping them as fresh as possible so they can cause as much impact as possible. I think that really is going to be a bit of a factor that can force us to be a bit of a team to be reckoned with. I'm not saying for 1 minute that we're even remotely Super Bowl contenders, but just to be contenders again in the division and have a chance to actually win a playoff game, which is all the Steelers fans really are crying for, is to finally get over the wild card line. I think we have got that, making him in a team that could possibly do that.
You can say, listen, I love the realism, but I am such a homer when it comes to the Colts. And I don't know if it's just the optimistic in me or the fact that Arsenal are doing so well at the minute, or you're just led to believe that this has got to be the year, right? I still think we're going to win the Super Bowl, even now, even after our horrendous start. You said there's a weakness there that the Colts can attack. On the flip side, do you think there is a strength of the Colts that, I mean, we can say Jonathan Taylor, right? That is the guy. I don't expect you to be watching the Colts every day, but is there anyone else who you've taken note of the Colts so far that you're like, okay, we need to either not throw that direction or we need to stop that player?
I think one of the things that the Steelers have done so well in containing Lamar Jackson, just trying to think of a quarterback that's fairly similar, is the fact that you sort of contain the pocket and force him into making big throws or big decisions that then make it wrong. So I think one of the big strengths of the Colts I've seen is their offensive line. And one of the big things of the Steelers is our defensive line. So if we can win that battle in the trench there and put some pressure onto Anthony Richardson to make some dumb decisions, which we've seen in the first 3 games, he is more than capable of doing. He's also more than capable of doing the genius. But getting the likes of TJ Watt, Nate Herbig, Cam Hayward, etc., onto to attack the offensive line, to attack Anthony Richardson, go after you, that's going to be the key to victory. But if you can keep our defensive line from causing any sort of problems to Anthony Richardson whatsoever, you've got the basis there to get the ball to Pierce, to get the ball to Jonathan Taylor to run down our throats, to get the ball to Michael Pittman, who I think has been a little bit disappointing with Anthony Richardson. He was a bit better with Gardner Minshew last year. But he's another guy who I think can cause a threat. So, again, I think the game's going to be won in the trenches. And if you can contain TJ Watt, you've got every chance.
Yeah. And I'm now going to bring in someone who has the voice of an angelic Tom Jones, and not just because he's Welsh, but is also a massive Colts fan. So I'd like to welcome Nathan. How's it going, bud?
Evening, gents. Always a lovely intro to my voice, Harrison. You're a big fan of my voice, aren't you?
Who isn't, mate? Who isn't? Nathan was just sort of discussing the strengths and the weaknesses of each other's team. The strength. What do you see as the strengths for who should the Colts throw away from? Who should the Colts? What should they do? Where are the weaknesses? Where are the strengths?
I think we'll see a potential major weakness in not handling the Steelers' defensive line. Richardson this year has struggled with layup throws and quick throws. He been quite open about that himself this week of how much he's struggled with it. So TJ Watt is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. Not when we're lining up against him, but he's going to lead a Pittsburgh attack, no doubt. In terms of where we shouldn't throw, I think we will see turnovers. Pittsburgh's defense is too good, and so far we've been a little bit too rusty. But that's probably the best answer I can give you there.
Yeah. Freddie, you don't have to worry about blushing. you've got a good defense, right? A very good defense, and this seems like a team that's clicking all of a sudden this year. The Steelers, the Colts, on the other hand, Nathan touched on it there. Rusty is a polite way of describing the first 3 games, I'd say, for us.
Yeah.
It for us Colts fans, it all seems too deja vu. You said you did a little bit of digging on Anthony Richardson, and you said you was a bigger fan of Gardner Minshew. Not the exact words, I'm putting words in these mouth, but what was your digging? What was your find? Did you think the Colts made the right choice at 4 last year? Well, 2022.
I mean, I was joking a little bit with Gardner Minshew, but
Yeah.
I mean, we can see that evidence in what he's doing in Vegas, so much so that they want to get rid of him and put Aiden O'Connell in already. So that says it all. But in terms of Anthony Richardson, I mean, I watched quite a bit of college football, so I saw what he was doing in Florida, and he's very much the same player that he was there. He does the spectacular. He's incredible to watch. He'll make the 50, 60-yard throw and then do something ridiculously silly, like throwing it straight at a linebacker, or throw it straight into double coverage, or make a decision where you've got one guy there that's probably the right option and he'll go somewhere else. But he's a young quarterback. He didn't get a full season, obviously, last year because of injury. So he's still really learning his trade in the NFL. But he is the kind of quarterback that you do need elite coaching in to be able to progress him into an NFL quarterback. And I mean, if you're getting 50% in terms of passing completion, that's just not going to cut it in this league. It has to be higher than that. And you've got to do the routine stuff routinely. I know that's a Mike Tomlinism. He says that all the time. But in order to actually progress and get anywhere, you've got to be able to do the simple things to be able to enable yourself to make the big plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got to give yourself a chance. I mean, my biggest criticism of him so far is you don't have to be Superman. You don't have to do it. Nathan was talking a little bit at the start of the show about Justin Fields, and Freddie was saying they finally feel like they've got a quarterback who's just doing the simple stuff. And I mean, originally my thoughts on Justin Fields when he was at the Bears was this guy is a NFL quarterback. He's definitely a lot more talented than what the Bears community was making out, or what I saw him making out to be. Nathan, your thoughts on Justin Fields? And Gus Bradley, our defensive coordinator, he loves to give up the middle of the field. He loves to give up tight ends. Are we in trouble again?
I guess there's 2 parts to that, right? Justin Fields, what a resurgence, kind of leaning into the Superman reference. That was his Bears career, right? A really bad O-line, very little playmakers outside of DJ Moore, and Daniel Mooney, who's now on the Falcons, from memory. So, you saw a guy there really trying to, win games by himself. And, when it looked good, it really looked good. But it was also quite ugly at times. And then, kind of as Freddie alluded to, step up Mr. Tomlin, where, everything is a very well-oiled machine. And a machine that means you haven't had a losing season in, many, many years. So, look, I don't think, I hope I don't eat these words, but I don't think we're going to get picked apart on the weekend. I mean, I was looking at Justin Fields' heat map after game 1, and it's very much to the edge. A lot of throws to the edge, a lot of quick throws, and so on. And we tidied it up on the last week, I would say, especially over the middle. So I don't think this is going to be a game where we give up, 300 yards of passing or whatever. I think, we talk about it a lot, ours, mate, but this is what we're built for. It's a game in the trenches, and another test of how good those trenches are.
I'll just put that comment up there for that. That is from our liege lord Elliot, who is we are just his servant. He is the founder of the UK Colts fans. This is I've got to apologise, boys, because I'm not even checked. But this is in Pittsburgh, or is this at Lucas Oil?
In Indy.
Lucas Oil.
Yeah, Lucas Oil. That's right. You know, that could be a factor. We know Pittsburgh. It can be a cold, nasty place if you know, especially this time of year and you're playing. I mean, Freddie, hype up the Steelers for me. Why should I believe this 3-0 team can go to the Super Bowl, can do it all? You know,
I don't believe that's going to happen. So I can't hype them up to go to the Super Bowl because it just the eye test is saying that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And as Nathan rightly alludes to, this is not going to be a game that the Colts lose 34-10 or 34-7 or anything like that, because the Steelers just simply haven't proven that they're capable of beating teams by 20, 25 points. If you've ever watched a Steelers game, and to be honest, the last few years, I wouldn't advise it. It's usually a very low scoring sort of 14-10, 14-7, 20. If we get into 20 points, it's pretty rare. We don't blow teams out particularly, but we do have a way of, if it's a close game, we do have a way of grinding out those wins and keep the win rate going. And I agree. I think this game's got close one-score games sort of written all over it again. I think we'll come out on top, because that's if it ends up in a grindy game like that, we always seem to find a way. But I mean, the Colts, as we've mentioned, have got playmakers that can cause us problems. If you want me to hype us up, we've got 3 decent running backs. I know Jalen Warren's out this week, which is another boost for the Colts. So we're going to have to be relying on Najee, who's not fully fit either, and Patterson, who's everybody knows what Patterson can do. He's a bit of a wild card, so he's another one you have to watch out for. George Pickens is my guy. I haven't mentioned him yet, so he's the guy you've got to keep an eye out for. But you've got a corner that's able to lock him down, and I think that's one of the key players that you've got that can keep him quiet, because after that, our receiving room is, I don't really know what word for bad you can put, but I mean, you're looking at the likes of Scotty Miller and Roman Wilson, the rookie, and there's a couple of other, Calvin Austin and a couple of other guys. But I mean, after Pickens, there's not much there. One thing I will pick up on Nathan's points, though, about the middle of the field is that we have got Pat Frymuth and we have got Darnell Washington in the tight end room, 2 guys who can cause some problems there. And Arthur Smith is somebody who actually is utilising that middle of the field. So that is somewhere where we could hurt you.
Yeah, I think to pick up on a few of Freddie's points there, Gus Bradley's the guy you want to play if you want a wide receiver to come out of the woodwork, right? The amount of soft coverage that you'll see on Sunday, mate, I wouldn't be surprised if, that poor receiving room really shines, and Pickens won't need to do much. But good point on Pickens. He's in a really, really great player who I think is crying out for help. I have a close friend, shout out Tom if you're watching, who was really, really caught up in the Brandon Ayuk saga of the off season. And I think watching Steelers football, you are crying out for some receiving help. And I would love to ask you, do you think Devontae Adams will be coming to town with how upset and out of place he seems in Oakland or Las Vegas right now?
I think the honest answer to that is if Aaron Rodgers wants him in New York to play with the Jets, he'll go to the Jets. But we're talking about the Raiders here and what they do as an organization. They could send him to Mars if, for all we know.
That's such a good point.
I don't know what the Raiders decide to do each day, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, sorry, boys. My signal was a bit behind there. Just a couple of comments from Elliot. Stop the run on the way to the QB. Establish the run. Easy as that. As simple as it gets. And biggest matchup with it will be the Colts O line versus the Steelers D line. Freddie, that's something you were saying. Hopefully, Smith is healthy to take on Watt. Yeah, I mean, TJ Watt, Freddie, is someone you just put everyone on, right? You man up elsewhere, and any spare man, any tight end, even Michael Pittman, there's a extra tight end / receiver blocker. Just lie on him. Take the penalty at sometimes. Sometimes you whatever you do, you just don't let him hit your young, inexperienced, a bit jumpy quarterback, because as soon as he hits him, that's when things can go downhill for the Colts real quick.
Yeah, I agree. But again, if you put too many people on TJ Watt, the Steelers have got enough guys elsewhere on the defensive line that can cause problems. So, I mean, I've already alluded to him already, but Nick Herbig's got 2 sacks and as a third choice outside linebacker. I mean, we are going to miss Alex Highsmith. That's another big loss for us. But there are guys that can make an impact. I mean, in terms of the linebacker room, even Patrick Queen, who we added in the offseason, has had a pretty quiet start so far, but he's a guy who can cause some problems and can grow as well into this team. And I'm really, really hoping on the safety side, a bit further back, that Deshaun Elliott's fit, because he would be he's another guy who's helped Minkah Fitzpatrick then to get back to his usual self. If he's not fit, then that's another, perhaps a pathway in for the Colts. But I completely agree with Elliott. The winner of this game is going to be whichever trench the Steelers D-line or the Colts O-line comes out on top. And if the Steelers D-line comes out on top, we'll win relatively comfortably. If the Colts O-line comes out on top, I think the Colts will end up winning the game.
Nathan, was Chris Ballard's whole mantra. His whole legacy as a GM was, we win in the trenches. He has piled a lot of money into these trenches. It's not worked so far this year. What do you think the guys have been working on this week? What do you think has been the message to I'd say the leaders, because I'd say for the Colts, the leaders really haven't stepped up this year so far.
I mean, I think it's honestly probably a little bit too early to say that it's not working. I think we watch every down of every game, so we're allowed to be kind of pissed off with how bad it's been at times already this season, right? But if we look at it in two tails, you've got an O-line that's currently trending, I think, top 3. Quentin Nelson is back. He's the number 1 pass protecting guard on PFF rankings again. Let's see if he can, hold it up. I believe, I'm happy to be fact checked, but so far he has not allowed a pressure in pass protection. So, Q's back. I think the O-line's playing really, really well. And what we're not seeing, or maybe didn't see until last week, is Steichen give the ball to Taylor, for Taylor to just go do his thing, right? And I think we'll see more of that Sunday. D-line, I agree. I think the Colts D in general just came out week 1 and week 2, and we were just hot garbage, especially in the run game. But, last week we saw, I think, a major, I'm not going to say turning point, because it's just too early, but we saw a major step in the right direction. But, we've lost some of our biggest trench players. DeForest Buckner is just a massive loss for us, especially with, Fields, who's kind of a QB who maybe wants to make it to the second level, wants to extend the play. Buckner could, we could have really used Buck to chase him down. But yeah, back to your point. I mean, we have some very expensive trenches. A lot of the Colts cap is tied up in its trenches, and let's see. This is the first major test, I would say, of the schedule so far.
And I mean, this is one for Nathan and Freddie. You might not watch a lot of the Colts, but so far we've. I mean, I'm paying him very high praise here, okay? But we've got our own TJ Watt on our hands in Latu. I'm just going to say his last name because I always murder it. I mean, Freddie, have you seen much of this guy apart from the one forced fumble he's had? That's probably been bounded around every highlight show on platforms.
Bits bobs. I have to say, the only game I've seen of the Colts was the first game against Houston, so I haven't seen the last couple of weeks, and that was a bit more of a sort of an offensive craziness going on. Whereas the last couple of weeks, I mean, against Green Bay and then against Chicago, has been more of a defensive fest. But no, he's clearly got some talent to be a bit of a pain in the arse to a lot of us going forward. And yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys on that Colts defense I really like, but he is one of them. But as you say, it's just a little bit inconsistent on the defense at the moment that you're allowing some of these. I mean, you allowed. I know it's week 1, but you allowed CJ Stroud to just have whatever fun he could have from the vast majority of that game. And I'm still waiting to see a little bit more of a push from the defensive line to really cause us some trouble. Because on the flip side, so we're looking at the Steelers O-line. I mean, it's been a bit inconsistent, and we've not really created many holes for our run game. I mean, in the first half against the Chargers last week, we didn't really get anywhere with the run game whatsoever, and we didn't really get going. It was only in the second half when we had over 200 yards of offense that we finally managed to get a bit of a push up front and cause some problems. I mean, we got in a centre finally in Zach Frazier that's finally the centerpiece of that offensive line that we've actually got now. A bit of a strength there that Fields isn't having to get the ball out in 1 second, although his time in getting the ball that's quite quick. But I think that you've got the Colts O line against the Steelers D line, but the Steelers O line against the Colts D line is also going to be crucial as well.
Yeah, Nathan, I could speak about this guy all day. I mean, apart from obviously selling the farm and going up to get Marvin Harrison, this was the next best situation for the Colts, right? And for me, I understand the difference between a pass rusher and a run defensive player, right? I don't know the exact terminology, but I know he's a guy in your field when you think you've got your opponent in a passing situation. For me, he's your first round pick. He's the shirt seller. I don't understand why this guy's been, I mean, maybe due to injury, but on so much of a snap count, it feels a bit. There's a time to bed people in it, and sometimes you see people and you're like, you've just got to let him go.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with your point about, the shirt seller as well. This is the, first defensive player taken in the draft. This is a guy that many people were, really singing the praises of, saying he's the best edge in the draft, and, falls to Ballard's hands. It was almost a genius play to stay at 15 and get this guy, which none of us were predicting, especially in the group chat, Freddie. Not one of us said we were going to get this guy. But yes, I agree on the snap count sense, but I think the tides are going to turn, right? So league-wise, he's currently third in pressures. You've got Jared Verse in LA Rams is second. And forgive me, I can't remember the name of their other draft pick. I know they were from the same school. Is currently leading the line. But Latu's played significantly less than them. And I think it probably is injury related, but at the same time, it's going to be personnel related. I don't think a rookie is someone who you're going to really have in your run package, your run stopping package. So I think that's why we've not seen much of him so far. Teams are going to attack us until we prove we can defend the run, which we sort of did last week. But then you go back to the Green Bay game and it was like, Moses parted the sea and Josh Jacobs kind of strolled on through. So I think we will see more of him, mate. We just need to kind of really show opposing offensive coordinators, like, you can't just run on us all game. And then we'll see Latu potentially in, 3 downs in a row, coming out for 1 or 2 and then back in. But, it's a big year for the guy, a really crucial play to ultimately win us the game, and he did that in college too, to Caleb in college last year. So familiar scenes in Lucas Oil last week even.
Yeah, Caleb Williams was absolutely hate the sight of Latu. There's one more thing we've got to address because, me and Freddie were a bit of a stickler for the special teams. Punts, everyone loves a punt. Everyone loves a punter. Freddie, our special teams over the past, since McAfee went and since Vinatieri retired, has been inconsistent at best due to injuries, poor play. Has special teams been something for the Steelers that has complemented your team, or has it hindered your team?
I was obviously doing a bit of research for tonight. I was looking at some punt statistics, and Rigoberto Sanchez, your punter's had one of the better seasons so far, and I think he had the 6th highest sort of net yardage in the NFL so far this season. Whereas our guy, Corliss Wakeman, who's actually our 2nd choice of the year because our first punter was out for the season after the first game against Atlanta, he's actually averaging more than anyone else in the league at the minute. So he really is helping us to turn the tides on the games. And I mean, we can't talk about the Steelers without mentioning week 1 and the fact that we beat the Falcons without actually scoring a touchdown. So we've got Chris Boswell. He's one of the best kickers in the league. I believe the only kick he's missed this season was last week against the Chargers, which was a 64-yarder up in Pittsburgh, which, I mean, that would have absolutely obliterated, I think, the highest kick in Pittsburgh, something like 58, 59 yards. So, I mean, our special teams is pretty good at the moment. It's been a bit inconsistent. We had Presley Harvin, the punter, in previous years, and he was not great. Actually, not great, being very kind. He was pretty hopeless. But no, the special teams is another thing that we can rely on the fact that our offense, even if it doesn't go too far, we'll get the points from Boswell, or we'll get the yardage if we have to punt it away. So, and again, that leads us into another thing where the defense hasn't got to block 20 yards; they've got 80 yards in their back pocket. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where we are with our special teams, and that's another big factor as to why we're here with 3 wins rather than 1 or 2.
Yeah, Nathan, the Colts special teams is a bit of a mixed bag. We seem to love the punting unit. We are, I'd say, from what I've watched, I mean, this is all eye test, so this could be completely wrong if you look at the stats. But we seem to be consistent in blocking punts. We seem to get at least a decent amount of block punts a season. I'm saying that one in the last game against the Bears was tipped and wasn't a roughing the kick or whatever they called it. But I could go on for another show for a whole hour about the Zebras. The kicking, we thought we had it in Matt Gay. I still think we do have it in Matt Gay. I think he's just recovered from a hernia operation. So that's probably why he's a bit shaky. But our special teams, and we love Grant Stewart, who has probably the best player in the NFL. For Freddie, you don't know, you'll see him on Sunday, mate. Just look out for our what are they called? Gunners, the guys who run down and block or something like that. He's got a big throw, you can't miss him. But we love him in Indy. So Nathan, just a quick word on our special teams.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of punting so far. Richardson's missed quite a lot of layups, especially on third down. Even when Steichen's getting players wide open, we see an overthrow or we've seen an interception as well. We've seen some fourth downs not convert. Freddie, one thing you should probably prepare for is us going for it on fourth. Our head coach absolutely loves it. And it's very rare he'll say no, which I don't know if that's testament to, his trust in Matt Gay at the moment, who's, he's clearly injured. Like, the media wants to make it into a bigger thing than it is. In my opinion, this is just a kicker who's injured. And once he heals, he's going to be back to booming them through the post, right? Look, I think we kind of we should see some progression from Richardson this week. I mean, I certainly hope we do in terms of those layups. So let's hope we can convert a few more third downs and even get ourselves into field goal range. A lot of the Colts' kind of scoring plays this season so far have come from, 50, 60, 65-yard throws. And obviously Taylor doing his thing, Taylor at the dance. So honestly, I don't know how to review our field goal unit this year because we just haven't seen it that much.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So I would like to now get into score predictions because I realise time's getting on a bit. It's quite easy to lose track of time when you're talking about the Colts. Whether that's a good thing or not. But so I'll start with a guest, as I always do. I think it's polite. Freddie, score prediction for Sunday, 4-0.
Yes, so I've already said what I think is going to happen. I think it'll be a one score game. It'll be pretty close. I think the Colts will run us well. The last few games between us have been not very close. Last year you absolutely hammered us, and then the previous ones we've beaten you. So, I think this one will be a close game. But in these one score games, the Steelers always seem to find a way to win. So I'm going to say 17-14 to Pittsburgh.
Nathan, are we going to see a step forward for Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a whim and say we will. And I'm also going to go out on a whim and say the defense takes another step as well. Personally, I have this game as 17-13 to the Colts. I'm going for an Indy win. Let's go Colts. 2-2, baby.
I'm going to be a homer, and anyone who wants betting advice, never listen to me because my heart takes over far too much. I think this could be it. I don't even know. I'll go with something I believe because I couldn't even say that. But I think this is going to be a close game. I think this is going to be. I would like it to be a bit of an old-fashioned game in that sense. I'd like it to be a bit of you punch us, we punch you game. It'd be nice. I'd like Anthony Richardson to just calm down. I sort of alluded to it in the group chat. I think I don't know if I actually got to sending it because I was that annoyed, but he to me he feels like when you watch a boxer go out for a big fight, you can tell who looks calm and who looks nervous. When I was watching, take it back to soccer, Arsenal play Bolton in the League Cup last night, and we've got a 16-year-old, and he's run out onto the field, bless him. He's got school tomorrow, and he's running around clapping everyone, and it's like we've not even kicked the ball yet, and he went on to have a good game. Besides the point, you can just tell when people are nervous, and that's my problem with Anthony Richardson. He just needs to stand in his stance, get his clicks right, get his progressions right, and he'll be fine. But I'm going to go with the Colts 21, Steelers 10. I'm hoping for basically, Freddie. What I'm doing is I'm trying to convince myself that Gus Bradley he's not going to get sacked at this point as defensive coordinator. So at this point, I just have to back him. We got a comment, Mr. Line. Colts 20, Steelers 27. Yeah, I mean,
that'd be a really fun game if it is that score. That'd be wicked.
I happen to know that person, and he's been a bit optimistic there with the 47 points in the game. But yeah, I think the one other thing is that, as I alluded to earlier, is that we haven't got Jalen Warren, and that run game is going to be a bit questionable without a fully fit Najee as well. So yeah, I think low scoring, but I'm going against you two and going Steelers win every day.
Yeah, you have to. I wouldn't expect you not to back your team. Freddie, I've got a couple more questions here before I let you go, and then I'm going to hold Nathan hostage for a little bit so we can just talk about week 3. But these are just fun questions, simple questions, and maybe a bit about yourself for the Colts fans who are watching this who won't know who you are. You know, how did you get into the NFL? Why the Steelers, etc.?
Well, to be honest, the first game I saw and then became a Steelers fan was when the one time we've actually played in London, which was 2013 against the Vikings, which we lost. And I'm a bit of a sucker for a loser, so that's why I support Plymouth Argyle, for example. So yeah, so it stuck from there, and then we had the great years of Bell, Brown, Ben, and just constant offense. And then for the last 5 or 6 years, it's been the total opposite. So no, it's all fun and games being a Steelers fan.
Yeah, and you know, so the Steelers, you know, as Colts fans, like I say, we know them as, well, I'd say I know them as Big Ben. They're going to fight you. They're going to make it horrible. They're going to lean on you. They're going to push you. They're going to bully you, essentially. Is this the Steelers that I know? Is this a different Steelers under Mike Tomlin? I mean, no. I say under Mike Tomlin like he's a new head coach or something, but is this, you know, has he rejuvenated a new look Steelers, or is this the same old?
Nah, not really. If you, as I mentioned earlier, if you watch an AFC North match, you just know that they just take two big punches at each other, and one of them ends up winning. It's always a bit feisty, and I mean, the first thing that comes to my head is when we riled up the Browns so much that Myles Garrett threw a helmet at Mason Rudolph. So, but riling up the Browns is not very difficult. But yeah, it's a bit old school. It's we try and run the ball as much as we can, and try and grind out wins, old fashioned. And I really do like that. I mean, the NFL is a bit of a new age now. The NFL wants to see offense and high scoring and the big quarterbacks, the Mahomeses, the Kyler Murrays, the Josh Allen's just going for 400 or 500 yards and having all fun. But there's still an art to the grinding out wins and fighting with your defense.
Yeah, and my last question, it's a bit of a who would you pick for your five-a-side team converted to the NFL of all time, so it can be anyone that you like, but it's simple. We need a quarterback, a running back, a receiver, and then a couple. It could be 2 front men, it could be 2 corners, whatever, 2 defensive players just to go alongside them.
Well, of all time.
Yeah, just your favorite. It doesn't have to be Steel. It could be players that haven't even made more than 6 games, but just your favorite players that you'd put out there.
Well, interestingly, one of the players I would have on defense that I absolutely love, but he got suspended last week after a hit against Pat Frymouth, which was Derwin James, who of the Chargers. I absolutely love watching him because he just plays full on all the time. So I'd have him in my defense. I mean, I can't be a Steelers fan and not put TJ Watt in there. So TJ Watt would also be in my defense. And offensively, I mean, some of the quarterback play at the moment is just so much fun to watch. So it's got to be one of the exciting quarterbacks. I'm an LSU fan, so I'm going to go with Jade Daniels and hope that he progresses into a superstar. I don't want to go Joe Burrow because he plays for the Bengals. Otherwise, I would go with Joe Burrow. But Jaden Daniels, a quarterback, and then Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I don't need running backs. I'm having my two LSU boys either side, and I'm just causing carnage.
That's fine with me, mate. Like I say, Freddie, I'm going to let you go now. Thanks for joining us, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I just hope it's a good game. And if I end up tweeting at some point saying, and it's still 3-3 in the third quarter, and there's been like 15 punts, we'll know we're on for a record-breaking night.
Yeah, we love a punt fest, and it's lovely to meet you as well, Nathan. And I wish you best of luck on Sunday, but I wouldn't mean it. So
that's the best way to be, mate. That's the best way to be.
Thanks, guys.
See you later,
mate.
Nathan, I've got you here. We'll end this episode with a bit of a week 3 recap because we've not had a chance to do it because apparently Robbie decided to invite the whole Thames into his house. No, I hope Robbie's okay with it. He had a bit of an issue, but week 3, it was. I've got a banner here. This is, it was just simple, really. Thank God for Jonathan Taylor, because without him, we lose.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a roller coaster of emotions, wasn't it? I mean, we'll keep it PG, but I was being pretty strong in UK Colts group chat HQ about how poor I felt that we were kind of playing, and then all of a sudden the defense is suddenly turning up, and we're making plays, and Zaire is flying around. I mean, how good was he on Sunday? He was everywhere. Jalen Jones, who we have an AFC Defensive Player of the Week again. Where's that come from? And like the second pick with like Nick Cross covering and Jalen kind of there to get the kind of one-handed grab. I was like, we're back, boys. We're back. But yeah, thank God for JT. I mean, not even because we're Colts stands, but I mean, what other running back in the league makes that cut? I don't think there is another one.
People can argue amongst themselves. He is running back 1 in the league. I don't care what anyone else says. Derrick Henry tried claiming his crown, and he fucked him off to a different division. Different conference division, same thing. He went, nah, the AFC South's mine. He's just the best running back in the. I'm not having that. There's a better running back. I'm not having that. He doesn't walk into all other 31 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking pure running back, then absolutely he's top 3, top 2, no doubt about it. His competitors currently in Germany getting his Achilles tendon assessed in Christian McCaffrey. So I think your prediction might be right there, mate. You don't travel to Germany if your injury is kind of nothing to worry about. Like 49ers HQ try and make everybody think.
Isn't that the same guy who Andrew Luck went to?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same country, yeah. So it probably is, yeah. But
yeah. I don't know if that's true. I thought I saw something. Like I said, I could be completely making that up, but I'm sure I saw.
No, it tends to be like the doctor that fixed Anthony Richardson's shoulder tendon is the same doctor that fixed Drew Brees and Matt Stafford's. So there's definitely like coherence there, I would say. They know who they're calling based off injury.
But let's talk about our QB. It's been a bit of a let's get back down to earth after the first week carnage of this guy can throw it more than 90 yards at 100 mile per hour off his back foot. So back down to earth. We still love the guy. Like we say, he's 22. I'm not gonna dig on someone who is clearly very talented, who has a long way to go. Just for me personally, and it's an annoyance for me because it is easier said than done, but don't make him a pocket passer. That's not what he is. That's not what he needs to be. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you don't make Derrick Henry a receiving back. Sort of thing. Like, I mean, what do you think? Is this a bit of a okay? Let's just calm down and let's make you an NFL quarterback situation.
So I'm going to say something controversial, right? Because I tuned into you and Robbie last week, and Robbie was kind of giving him some harsh feedback, right? I'm not worried about Richardson at all. I genuinely couldn't care if he threw 50 interceptions this year. For me, it's all about game time. It's about reps. And ultimately, I think we're seeing it's about an urgent need to develop his feet. Right now, he is throwing the ball purely with his arm. You can see it. The ball is zipping to people. The overthrows, as you say, they're like 100 mile an hour, flying over people's heads. And you just think, if he set his feet and I was watching AR's press conference around about 7 p.m. tonight when I was cooking, and even he said, I just need to spin it. I just need to spin the ball, which I've been doing for years. Yeah. I think the media hasn't helped the Richardson hype. A lot of Colts fans online, or at least in the Twitterverse, are giving up on the guy already. And I just think, you've got to allow these. If you're going to start a kid, you've got to allow the ugly to happen. I mean, Look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't this finished product in year 1 and 2. Peyton, and I've been annoyed at how much people have been comparing Richardson and Manning in terms of stats this week. Ridiculous. It's like, what are we doing? This is the greatest quarterback of all time. Incomparable to anyone. But I think in short, mate, I'm really not worried about it. I think we're going to see uglier moments this year, and we're going to see more of those, just wow, spectacular moments this year. And for me, like if we make it to the end of the year and he's played every game and he's he clearly cares too. I mean, I'm going to put a question back to you. Did you see the locker room video and what he said at the end of it?
Yeah, I need to play better.
Yeah, I thought that was like, it was really like, it was weird to watch. I felt like this weird feeling because I was like, this is a 22-year-old kid who's just won his first game of the season. Yeah. It would have been easy to have gone really big-headed about it, great team win, whatever. And his voice kind of wobbled a bit. It was like as if he was holding back emotion where when he spoke about it, and he was incredibly hard on himself. At the post-game interview on the field, he was his harshest critic there. So I'm not too worried about it, man. I'm very relaxed about it, and I think you're so right in what you say. Week 1 pushed the expectations far too high.
For me, and I said this to Freddie when we was chatting. I said I would always rather be on day 1 of a project than in a washed up QB cycle.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I can't do another washed up QB.
No.
You know, I really can't.
I can't hack another. The last serviceable quarterback we had was a washed up Philip Rivers, and that we literally we had to Hail Mary it from the 40-yard line against the Buffalo Bills, and we're just like, what are we doing? So to have someone who can do the magnificent is actually quite nice. And to, like you say, it would have been easy for him not to say anything after that game.
Yeah.
It would have been easy for him just to go, yeah, 1-0, blah, 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 you know. To take the... I've been crying out for a leader on this team.
Yeah, completely, man.
Couple of weeks. It's been screaming for someone to go, do you know what? No, this ship isn't fucking going down, mate. You haven't got a choice. You're all coming with me, and if you're not, see you later. So defense obviously bucks out. Like you say, Jalen Jones, slapped a lot of people in the mouth, including us. You know, he was getting a lot of stick. He's like, no. There's a reason I'm in this team, and I think it's as simple as they need to stop apologising for being Colts players.
Great point. Great point. I mean, you know, let's shout out Nick Cross too, the current tackling leader in the whole of the NFL. A guy who was doubted from day one this offseason. Everyone was talking trash on the guy, especially when they moved him over to the other side. And guy's balling out. I mean, again, a young player drafted at 20 2 years ago, you know, has had a lot of time to develop, and kids balling out. I'm here for it. You know, keep going. Yeah.
Last one, mate, before we wrap this up. You know, the Colts, for me now, the Colts are starting to have a bit of presence in the national media, and it's quite nice. And I mean this in the sense of, we just used to have McAfee, right? It was just McAfee. And all of a sudden, there's a Colts versus Chicago game, and you got Tyrese Halliburton there. He's been to a couple of Colts games now. You got TJ McConnell hitting the anvil, which was nice. You know, and you got Seth Rollins for the WWE fans out having a bit of a skit going on with T.Y. Hilton, which was good to watch. You know, it just seems like the Colts are actually, like, it feels nice. Just, I don't think I can keep saying we're a small market team anymore, which is quite nice.
Yeah, and I think, you know, drafting Anthony Richardson was always going to do that. You know, Elliot asked me to write a piece beginning of the year, and one of the questions in the piece, it was for an annual in the UK, and I'm completely running blank on its name, which is terrible of me. But one of the questions was like, you know, how would you convince someone who's brand new to the game to support the Colts? And I think for a lot of us now, the answer is Anthony Richardson, right? It is. And I think, you know, we're either going to be saying that for the next 10 years, or we're going to be saying it for another 2 years, and he's a bust.
Yeah, and then it's Arch Manning. So
completely, because we've said it before, mate. We're on file on YouTube saying this stuff. If Richardson doesn't work out, Ursay is sending the farm for Arch Manning. It could be the biggest trade in the history of the league.
Yeah, it's just gonna. I mean, it wouldn't, because I obviously don't want Anthony Richardson to be a bust at all.
No, and I need to say that, like, hands up, like, I want this guy to be like to take us to the promised land. You know,
Yeah.
I genuinely do. He seems like a great guy to have as your quarterback. You know,
But like we say, if it doesn't work out, we know two things are happening. We know we're getting Archman in. Jim Irsay is not letting Archman in, not come to the Colts. And then we know by that time, Harrison Jr. won't be on a rookie contract. The Cardinals will be a mess and they won't pay him. So
we'll have no picks for the next 10
Yeah.
years. We'll have no cap room because it'll
Yeah.
all be paid to Marv. But we'll just run it back. We'll run it back and we'll all be happy about it.
Right. Like Coach Saturday once said, you know, I don't know what goes into making a sausage, but I'm pretty good at it. I'm not sure that was the actual term, but it can make a good sausage. Right, I don't know if it's the fact that it's 10 past 10, I think, even later than that now, and my toddler doesn't like to sleep more than 3 hours a night, apparently, at the minute. But Nathan, I think that's time to call it there.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, mate. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, thanks so much for everyone for watching. It was nice to have some Steelers fans joining in the chat, actually. And yeah, see you all after the Colts 31, Steelers 3.